On an all-new Babylon 5.
Here we go again.
The war rages out of control. The Centauri's split strategy baffles everyone.
It's like having a defensive and offensive special team in football.
Has there been any exchange between the two sides?
Little or none.
Nothing adds up until Franklin makes a frightening discovery.
Oh.
Now we know why.
Of course. Give me everything you've got. Several million people are riding on this.
Watch an all-new Babylon 5. Next Wednesday night at 8 on TNT.
You have transmissions holding.
Patch incoming signal. Full audio and video decode.
Purple files accessed.
What you are about to see has never been shown to anyone outside the Great Council.
Welcome back, everybody, to Gray 17, a Babylon 5 podcast, part of NPR Illinois Community Voices and the Front Row Network. So those of you who've been listening and following along with us, especially the last couple of weeks, you've noticed that we've not exactly been on our standard game or on our schedule of normal releases. And to all of the fans who have been supportive, who have still continued to send us messages, to understand the shift that we've been going through, we truly appreciate and value every single one of you and the comments that you have made, the messages that you have sent. If there is one message that has come through Babylon 5 from the struggles with the show, getting it made, through keeping it running for 5 seasons, to this incredible fan community, it can best be summed up with the phrase faith manages. And
love you all.
We are continuing to manage. We are continuing to produce this podcast, and we will make sure that we finish this show as strong as what we started. And Scott will be back with us soon and very much be part of the rest of this season of Gray 17. So I am Blake, and with me is
Nicole,
Kevin,
Justin,
fucking Jessi,
Mike,
and the Menace.
Amen.
And Emily has truly decided the last few weeks to just choose violence. that has been her whole role in this podcast, has been to choose violence. And several of our listeners are actually here for it. And we've had to put out more than one disclaimer about the way our discussions have gone recently. So we'll see how tonight's discussion goes, where we are discussing movements of fire and shadow. Speaking of movements, we don't have a review this week, but to a special someone out there, you could move that stick out of your ass at any time.
That's you, Rick. We're talking to you, you fuck.
Or we can shove it in further, whatever you want to do.
Give
One
it the
of the
fuck
two.
up.
Choice is yours.
I just, listen, I understand we give him radio time, we give him fucking fuel, but I just don't fucking get it. I don't understand how you can be such a hateful little fuck. Like, knock it off. I've had enough.
He's a dickless wonder. That's all I can say about it. Like, for someone to hate listen and then put in negative reviews like week after week, you're just an ass.
Kevin, you've had a lot to say on this subject.
I sure have, because the guy fucking...
But we do love our hate listeners also. Hi to our special friends in Argentina. We know you still listen because we see the map of listeners.
My
we know
biggest
you're
fan.
there. So for this week's episode, we have a rather lengthy synopsis because absolutely nothing at all happened this week. Kevin.
I shortened it down just a little bit.
Oh, good.
Londo and Jakar return to Centari Prime to investigate and are promptly thrown in jail. Jakar finds a spicy way to get Londo out, and Londo tries to gather support. Garibaldi learns that member worlds plan to attack Centari Prime. Sheridan rushes to try and stop the attack. Delenn and Lanier head back to Minbar to convince the Council to build new ships, but are attacked in hyperspace. And Lita and Franklin find out what's been controlling the Centauri attack fleet.
Thank you, Kevin. And yeah, I'm pretty sure Jakar used the Taco Bell maneuver to clear out that cell.
Or the White Castle maneuver, one of the two.
One of the two, because I'm pretty sure that same thing's been done to clear out the bathrooms at places of employment before as well. So
Hold
for
on.
those of
Hold
Go
on,
ahead,
you
Mike.
forgot another critical plot point in this episode, and that is the discussion of lingerie between Sheridan and Delenn.
Yes,
Are
there
you
was a
sure?
special gift.
I have a lot
They
to
were
say on
little,
that
and Delenn thought they looked funny.
I'm sure Emily was super thrilled about that discussion.
I swear, if that man tried to buy her pasties,
That's what I thought. I thought they were
on
like
fire.
nipple clips or like tassels.
No,
We've
he's
not even
so
made it
vanilla.
past the review, folks, and we're already off this.
I have a lot to say on that subject.
So, since obviously we have a lot to say on anything ranging from pasties to nipple tassels, for those of you joining that aren't familiar with how this train wreck works, we start off with asking our newbies for their first impressions, as well as our first ones, our longtime fans of the show. Then we will go into a general discussion before we throw all of our newbies out the airlock, although some of them we may try to throw out before that. And then we will discuss all of your questions and predictions that our newbies have beyond the rim. So let's go ahead and get started with our first impressions, and let's go to Jessi this week.
Nipple tassels. I legit was like watching it and I'm like, yeah, no, she's definitely talking about like the little clips with the things. And anybody that's just listening and not watching, I just did a whole thing with my hand in my boob. You're welcome. So
Join our Patreon to see a video of this week's episode.
I will show it to you again twice. Okay.
You gotta pay for a cameo though.
Oh yeah. Hey, listen, if you want to hire me to talk shit to you, please do. I will absolutely 100% do that to you. And
She's offering her new dominatrix services, apparently.
Jessie's anti-motivational cameos.
Don't worry, I'm not going to be nice. Okay. So this episode was a shit show and I don't like it. I just want to ease out of the last part of the last season without the bullshit because I don't know what's happening again as per usual for the 5th fucking season in a row. It's not that I didn't like the episode. The episode was actually very, very good. I just don't like the way that it's going and it's been going. And I just like, we're so close to the end. I just thought we could just have like a nice picnic or maybe like some cuddle time that doesn't involve Sheridan and Delenn and nipple tassels. So I don't know. I didn't hate it.
I'm almost speechless after that. But if there's
5 minutes in and I broke Blake. You're welcome.
If there's anybody that can follow that, Justin, let's go to you for your first impressions.
So I was glad to actually see Lockley come back because we missed her for a while. The revelation of the drone fleet was actually pretty cool, but I honestly don't see how the Centauri leadership didn't know about it. So did the need for people to control the shadow ships get retconned? Because I didn't know or maybe missed actually the fact that they had drone tech. And then I love Jakar puking all over Londo and melting his buttons and getting him out of the cell. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Let's go to Nicole for your first impression.
So there was a lot going on in this episode. It was almost a little hard to follow because I felt like it went from scene to scene to plot really quickly. But yeah, I mean, a lot of revelations, a lot of things happen. Of course, it fucking ends on a cliffhanger. I was like, what the hell, man? But I liked, obviously, the dynamic between Jakar and Londo. I cracked up when Jakar was like, now you really picked a really bad time to find your morals, basically. That cracked me up. Good to see Lockley back. I know Justin said that, but I was excited to see her in the beginning. I thought the Franklin Lita stuff was pretty funny. They were bickering over the map. That cracked me up. Lita, she's definitely changed, like they said, but she had a pretty badass moment on Drazi, which was cool. It really just kind of showcased what she can do. So that was pretty neat. It was a good reminder of, oh shit, yeah, she's still here, and oh, she's still badass. So don't get on her bad side. But yeah, obviously, what the fuck, Delenn and Lanier getting blown up, that was upsetting. But I kind of also don't like where it's going. Like, I just have a bad feeling. You know, like when you just have this gut feeling that something's bad is going to happen and you don't know what it is. I felt that way the entire episode. So
every night before we record.
Yeah. I'm almost nervous to watch the next episode because I'm like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Because clearly they made it to Centauri and started attacking before Sheridan can intercept. So And then Lanier and fucking Delenn are lost in space. Like all this shit's going down. Jakar's on fucking Centauri that's getting attacked. Is he gonna survive in the cell or is he gonna get hurt? Londo's outside watching it happen. Like, come on, go in. It's like when the tornado sirens go off, people go on the porch. Get your ass in the fucking shelter. So yeah, just a lot of stuff was happening. And I have some questions we'll get into later.
Oh, Lanier Lost in Space. Now there's a show I could watch.
Oh, hell yeah.
Kevin,
yes, I believe they made that. It's called Lost in Space.
It's not with Lanier, though, is it?
No, it's not with Lanier.
Okay, then. So they didn't make it, smartass.
But it's the same actor.
No.
Oh, is it? Is it Bill Murray?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
The original was with Lanier.
Will Robinson from the original.
Yeah.
I didn't know that because we can't Google him.
And since when have any of you listened to any instruction we've given?
I have not Googled anything, I'll be proud to say.
No. No. I honestly knew that from the beginning that Bill Movie was the original Will Robinson. I watched that show when I was a kid, and come at me.
I feel like
one of the four of us Google, and it's
sure we
not
did
me, Emily, and Nicole.
No, I don't Google shit. Come on. I just know shit. I'm a cesspool of useless knowledge.
Well, drink and I know things. All right,
to be fair,
got the first part right.
To be fair, I don't know sci-fi, so I wouldn't have had any inkling or knowledge that Bill Mummy was in that show.
Right.
I didn't even know it was a real show. If that tells you
I
anything.
drink and I talk shit. Come on.
I don't know anything.
God, that should be the summary for this whole podcast. We drink and we talk shit.
You know, thinking up, I've never actually drank on the podcast once this whole time.
I'm disappointed in you.
That's your fault. Okay.
That's your own damn fault.
I'm more impressed by that than I am about your hamburger thing.
I forgot about that.
Oh, we definitely know who the weird one on this show is.
Weird.
You're officially a square, man.
You know what? I'll fly my freak flag. I don't care.
So, Emily, let's go to you for your first impressions.
Speaking of freak flag, go ahead, Emily.
I don't know what you mean. I absolutely don't have questions that will be waving that all over the place. It wasn't my favorite. It wasn't the worst. Lita crossed a fucking line, so that was fascinating. I did not hear the cricket outside Londo and Jakar's cell this time, so I'm concerned about what happened to it.
It died.
Kevin squashed it.
Okay, I'm going to say this very clearly. If Delenn does not make it to the end of this season, bad things will happen. Okay?
Oh.
Bad things. So she better be alive in that last episode.
Blink twice if she dies. Yep. See? Look at you all.
Could we get a detailed description of what these bad things would be?
I have to plot. We'll see how angry I actually am. And
What are you going to do?
Really, I'm struggling with Sheridan. Every time he comes on screen, my brain is just like, let's ignore him and go to more interesting questions like, the Narn have pouches, but as far as we can see, they don't have tails. So do they mate like humans or kangaroos? And who have the pouch? Do the women have the pouch? Or are they like horses and the men have a pouch?
We're not even in question time yet, God damn it.
I know, but these are the things I was thinking of when I watched the episode because
what is wrong with you, Emily? What is wrong with you? Who hurt you? Who hurt you, Emily?
We don't have this kind of time.
Right.
We are still trying to discover what all is wrong with me, but I do have a lot of questions that I need answers to. Like, who has the pouch? I need to know these things. So if anyone has answers, please provide them. But it was good to have Lockley back, so that was nice. Hope we see more of her and less of Sheridan. That'd be great. Kind of sad he wasn't on the ship that got blown up. But no, he had to send Delenn. Fucker. I'm done.
Praise God.
Jesus Christ. Jesus H. Roosevelt Christ. What is wrong with you, girl?
Jesus Christ.
I just feel like I need to edit in at some point in this the Mad TV lowered expectations theme.
Yeah.
Somewhere in here, throw that in.
I don't know why you'd feel that way.
So let's go to our first ones. And Mike, what are your thoughts on this episode?
I liked it. This is a good episode. It's got a lot of moving parts, a lot of existing tensions all of a sudden get kicked into like overdrive in this one. And while I really enjoy that you have some cool space mysteries, some fun side quests, all kind of building towards a singular big event, and I think that is really, really cool how they pull all that together. and how they packed all of it into one really fun-filled episode. And at the same time, they've captured some absolutely great character moments. Again, can go on and on about Jakar and Londo. I personally have said it before, and I'll say it again. I actually love it when the Regent is on the show and when Londo spends time interacting with him. We can talk more about that later. But yeah, all in all, it is a absolute 10 out of 10 episode in the series.
And Kevin?
Honestly, I think Mike said it very well. I would add that this episode is directed by John Flynn, who is the director of photography for the series. So he does get to direct several times throughout the run, and I think this is a really strong one. It's packed. It's got so much in it. I will also note Richard Biggs and Pat Tallman working together, I think, are a lot of fun too. They tend to practice and rehearse a lot. Apparently that was over at Richard Biggs' house, and they improv sometimes, especially the scene in the street they were improving. And I thought this was a good Sheridan episode too. I'm sure I will get some disagreement, but I know, and I was critical of him recently in the last episode, but I thought this one was good, but it kind of showed his maybe more military side. Hey, we need these ships. Hey, I need to go stop this attack. So that's kind of his bread and butter. But I think it's a really enjoyable episode. I think if I were rewatching season 5, I know I would not skip this one. Not only because it's important, because it's lots of setup and lots of action, but I think it's an exceptionally good episode myself.
I agree with both you and Mike, Kevin, that this is one of the better episodes of season 5. It's got a lot in it. And actually, when you get to this one, and JMS even comments on it, is the bigger the wham that he's going to throw at you, the longer the ramp up it takes. So a lot of the story arcs and stuff in season 5 we've seen before this is putting the different pieces on the board where they need to be. And Lita's a prime example of that. As much as the telepath storyline annoyed some of you, without that storyline, without Lita's involvement in that, Lita's not the one that's going to go with Franklin to the Drazi homeworld and do all this stuff. It's the experiences she had with Byron and the telepaths that kind of changed the character to set the character up to do this. So that's what JMS was doing earlier in the season, was really setting up for this little period of a run. And I really like where it all came together in this episode with the different pieces. And we start getting really last week into this, we start to get the payoff of this. And JMS has even called this part 4 of a 5-part little arc within the series. What's interesting production-wise, though, you mentioned that kind of cliffhanger end. JMS did not actually know TNT was going to be putting the show on a break right after this episode. So that was kind of an unplanned little thing. It just sort of happened. So, okay, now let's move into generally talking about the episode. So how about we get started with Londo and Jakar on Centari Prime, and one of the more interesting ways to get out of a cell. Nicole.
So I have a lot of thoughts on this whole sequence here. So first of all, I really chuckled at the beginning of them in the cell about how Jakar was giving him shit about how, boy, you picked a really bad time to get morals and figure it out. That was awesome. And I just love seeing them together. I also am very confused about what happened. Was that a dream or was that real? Like the flashlight that knocked him out, and then Londo with the creepy aliens and the guy saying he'll do. Like, what the fuck was that? Like, that was crazy. So fast forward to Londo wanting to get out of the cell, waking up from his nightmare or whatever. The whole thing about him going to see the Regent, first of all, going to talk to those assholes, I called them the gaggle of dicks because they were all a bunch of assholes. And they're like, we're not going to support you and all this stuff. Like, they're shady. They know something's going on. And I hate them. I hate them. So then when he finally gets to see the Regent is a wackadoodle. And he kept saying, they said this, they said that, they said this. And we know that that's the keeper, but obviously Londo doesn't, right? So I guess my thought or concern or question is, did they give Londo the keeper, or was that really a dream? So I guess I'm an early question here. But also, are they going to survive? I mean, they're literally standing there getting attacked. Like, the Regent told them to turn off the defense mechanisms and send the ships away. They have no defense and they're getting attacked. So maybe this is me just being naive or like not knowing the lore of like sci-fi, but like who is really behind this? Like, are that gaggle of assholes working with the Drazi? Is it the Drazi that put the keeper in the regent? It was all very confusing to me. So it was interesting, and I was like at the edge of my seat, like watching what was going to happen next. But man, it was a lot going on just in that specific dynamic on Centauri Prime. So yeah, so I really liked some of the things. I was really confused by some of the other, and I really think it's the regent's behavior is just fucking batshit crazy. And the things he was saying with his eyes all open and bug-eyed, well, like clearly he's not in his right mind. So who really is in charge? Is it the gaggle of assholes? I forget that guy's name. I don't know. He's not the prime minister because that's what Londo is. He's not the regent. That other guy, you know, the one main guy. What is he?
They just call him minister. They never actually give him a name.
Yes. Okay. Minister asshole. Okay. I think he has something to do with this, but I guess I'm trying to piece it together. So as I was watching all this unfold, I was just trying to figure out where the pieces fit. I'm not good at puzzles. So yeah, I could probably talk a lot more about this, but I will give someone else a moment to say something.
Justin.
150% everything that happened in that episode is real. So Londo, when they dropped that flashbang grenade in the cell, Londo got carted off. He got scanned or whatever, and he's definitely being set up to have a keeper, which we already knew this was going to happen because we've seen this in War Without End and stuff like that. Londo is going to get a keeper, and I think this is we're watching how it kind of takes place with him. So I think that everything that, even though like when they woke up and it's like, oh, you had a nightmare and you snore and stuff like that, I 100% think that everything that happened actually took place and none of it was a nightmare or anything like that. He honestly got taken by them and got scanned and stuff like that to get his keeper. But that's all I have to say about that.
All right. Anyone else want to talk about Londo and Jakar? Cole.
Okay, so I definitely think I agree with you, Justin. Like, I think that was probably real, not a dream, because Jakar went out too, and they just took Londo. But that leads me to wonder, who are the creepy aliens? Was that a Drazi that said he'll do, or was that some other race we've never seen?
So, Nicole, you keep calling them Drazi. Do you mean Drak?
Oh, that's a Drak. No, the Drazi are the one who started the war, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, but that guy, is that a Drazi or a Drak? Who said he'll do or he'll suffice?
Drak.
That's a Drak. Okay. I was confused. I thought he was a Drazi, and then that's why I thought everybody was in on it. So
for all of our fans listening at home, don't fanboy us on this.
Yeah. Listen, I am new to sci-fi. Give me a break. And I can't tell the Drazi and the Drak apart. They look fucking the same to me. So I know they're going to come for me, whatever. Okay. So that whole process of the keeper insertion was fucking terrifying. I'm going to have a nightmare about that. Like, that was crazy. I wish like I didn't see that scene, because that was just creepy as hell.
So apparently Nicole doesn't like a good probing.
Hell no.
Justin.
Well, I, for one, am saying that Londo got a good probing that day. And it's one of those things where if he honestly, like, he got dragged off, because we've seen this more than once in the series where somebody got dragged off and he got probed, and not in a good way. I'm very sorry to, like, break Nicole's balls on that, but he definitely got probed. It was not good, and it's gonna cause some shit.
Mike.
Yeah, besides the great character moments with Londo and Jakar, I absolutely love the how Jakar is ribbing Londo about his grand plan about how he can do more good in the prison cell than out, and then Jakar's like, "Oh, what's that sound I hear? A cricket? No. Is that the sound of your angry mob that's coming to rescue you? No, not them either." Like, I don't know. I laughed really hard at the ability of Jakar to just be absolutely sarcastic in that extremely dire moment.
I love that part of that too, when they're sitting there and Lana goes, "Something's wrong," and Jakar just looks at him. Perhaps that you're at war with everybody.
But yeah, and then I actually I love the whole sequence on Centauri Prime. Again, the character stuff between the Regent and Londo. I think the actor playing the Regent, who I have his name and it bears mentioning, Damien London, fantastic actor. He plays that mentally unstable sort of, I don't mean to be evil, but I have to be evil. Like, he plays a perfect psychopath, honestly, in this. I don't know if that's even the right word for it, but like he's so good. And I love how Londo kind of like has kid gloves on around him, like, oh no, Regent, you're fine. You didn't mean it. And he's like, no, you don't understand. Like, that's fantastic. I fawn over that scene. And then just carrying on, I love all of I think we've talked before. I was trying to find the name of the episode, and somebody can jump in here and beat me to it. But I'm thinking of the episode where, I believe it's Sheridan, gets captured by the unknown alien, and they put him into the death arena and make him fight the other alien. Was that Sheridan or was that Sinclair?
Yep, that was Sheridan.
Okay.
That was looking for it. One moment.
Yeah, I can't find it.
All Alone in the Night, I believe.
Yes. Okay. Big vibes back to that episode. And I think at that time we probably had a discussion about one of the few movies that like actually burrows into my subconscious and makes me not want to sleep at night, and that is Fire in the Sky. This sequence, once again, where they abduct Londo and they pull him off and they're very definitely doing proby things to him, reminds me very much of the freakiness of that movie to me. And the whole thing just builds up to this like really, I don't know, crazy mystery about what's going on Centauri Prime. Like, I actually love that they've buried the lead on this so deep by hinting at what happened in Jakar and Londo's first encounter on Centauri Prime, and now hinting at things being amiss with the Emperor and not knowing what's going on with the military, and now this. Like, it's all just really fun storytelling to me because it's building up to that great big old space mystery that I love so much. Yeah, I think that's probably all I really have to say about it, other than I just like the way that they played this whole thing.
I die a little bit inside anytime someone brings up Fire in the Sky, just because the person that is the subject of is actually a distant relation within my family. And kids, all I have to say is be careful with your drugs.
No shit, that shit was real. Come on, Blake.
Be careful with your drugs, folks. That's all I'm going to say.
It was real to somebody.
In whatever state they were in at the time. Emily.
Oh, I have no idea what the hell they're talking about. I just have more questions.
Oh, fuck's sake.
About the Narn. Well, it's actually relevant. So the whole Jakar vomiting all over Londo was absolutely disgusting, and I'm glad I didn't vomit in response.
What makes you so sure it was vomit?
It looks like he was trying to gag himself, and I'm just going to go with it because you know what? I don't know their biology, so I don't know if it was something else. But in my head, for my own sanity, what little tiny fraction of a percent I have left, it is going to be vomit. Which leads me to my question. Do they have a regular stomach like a human would, or do they have like a ruminating cow stomach where like some of it hangs out for a while? How recently had they eaten? How was he able to do that? What is their system like? I have so many questions.
How do you know it didn't come from the pouch?
I don't know. That's why I have questions. But no, it was actually a really good scene. And I was, although disgusted, quite impressed with Jakar thinking on the spot, like, how do we get them to open the door and let you out? Here, let me vomit on you, which is actually hilarious because I feel like that's old school petty Jakar coming back out and like, hee, I can get him. And not the new chill Jakar. He reverted a little bit and got back at Londo.
Nicole?
Okay, so I thought of something when everyone was talking that I wrote down and I realized. So when Regent, Crazy Pants, and Londo were talking at the end, and he said, they did this, they said this, they said this. Londo asked him who, and he said, you'll find out really soon. And then the Regent said he was going to die within that night or whatever. So I guess, yeah, maybe it was real then, because what I am interpreting now that I'm remembering that part is that the keeper was transferred to Londo, and then now the Regent's going to die because basically he was a host and he's not needed anymore. So he's going to die, and Londo will have the Regent and become the new emperor or whatever. And he'll be being controlled by the Regent. I mean, the keeper. But my thought was, who controls the keeper? Because if the keeper was telling the Regent to take all of the defense offline and send all the ships away, and Minister is saying that they're just defending themselves and trying to tell Londo to stay out of it, like I'm even more confused now. So Mike, I do see what you're talking about the big space mystery, because there's a lot of things that have been building up and happening, but we don't really have the full answers yet. So yeah, it's kind of tripping me out now that I've made that connection in my brain that like, oh, the regent literally flat out told him, you'll find out. Like he was telling us, not necessarily Londo. So yeah, I'm interested to see what's going to happen if the regent actually does die, or if they're just going to get all bombed to hell and nobody survives. I mean, I'm sure Londo and Jakar will survive because they're main characters of the show, but like also you really never know. So I don't want to jinx it. So I'm just, yeah, I have no idea what's going to happen next, but I definitely know it's not going to be good for Centauri Prime.
Jessi.
So as Londo was getting probed and they were x-raying him, not a dick in sight, not a single Centauri dick in sight. And I was extremely disappointed.
Jessi, I may not be an anatomy specialist, but just because they call it a boner, there's not an actual bone involved. So
how do you know?
I doubt
Do you
that would
know
show
that?
up on an X-ray.
Do you know that they're not
like
bones?
this sticky hand.
It's not a CT scan where that might show up more.
Do you for sure know that they're not bones? Plus, you would see at least the outline of them.
Wait, I just found out today that there's no bones in your fingers. Did you guys all know that?
As someone who has broken their finger, that one's not true.
Yeah.
Somebody said there's no bones in your fingers and your fingers are controlled by muscles in your hand. Okay.
Yeah, no.
I was like, that
that's
can't
not
be
right.
true. That can't be true. Okay.
The
Thank
fact
you.
that you're asking this group, though, if that was true, as if you had a legitimate question about that.
Were you listening to Joe Rogan by chance?
No.
One single medical professional in the group.
Wait,
Were you listening to RFK Jr.?
No, I read it on one of those like 1,000 facts or something.
Was it written by RFK Jr.?
Maybe I misread it. Maybe I'm thinking there's no muscles in your fingers, not bones. They're controlled by the muscles.
Being someone who has broken many fingers playing hockey in my life, I know for a fact there's bones in your fingers.
Yeah, I meant to say there's no muscles in your fingers, not bones.
See, I've broke one of those too. I know for a fact they're there.
I'm just going to stop talking. I'm stupid.
So back to Londo's dicks, because don't you try to derail me.
Well, you see Nicole, or you see Jessi and Nicole. The thing with the dicks is like, you know, like moose sometimes shed their antlers once a year and then they grow back.
Mm-hmm.
Oh shit, Mike! Come on.
Wait, never mind.
He's just shedding dicks like they're dropping on the floor.
Are you saying that there's a time that he has actually technically 12 before he sheds the 6 and the
No, he just has little.
I am so editing all of this out.
Okay.
No, you are not.
Oh yes,
That's
I am.
fine. It's a legitimate question though.
Wait.
Like there were no dicks. I'm just saying.
Justin?
I, for one, am also disappointed that we didn't see dicks in the X-ray. I'm just saying that. I'm 100% with Jessi on this.
I'm looking at several of them right now.
God damn it! Don't talk about Mike
We're still
like
on
that.
like,
He's a nice guy.
yeah, we're still on like story one.
Can we please move on?
You'll
40
never move on
minutes
from
in,
Centari
and we've
dicks. I'm
talked
sorry.
about nothing else. Okay. All I wanted to say was it felt very X-Files-y, like, 90s X-Files with the whole alien abduction, whether it's a dream or not thing going. I thought it was pretty good. The other thing I wanted to say is I think they took like a whole morning and threw off their whole shooting schedule because John Flynn wanted to spend so much time on that alien scene, but he wanted it just right. And apparently he was incredibly popular with the cast because everyone really liked working with him. And of course he was a regular because he was the director of photography all the time. So I just found it really cool that they really made it feel mysterious and left it to the viewer to wonder what was going on.
So are we ready to move to a different topic now? For the love of all that is holy. So how about we go talk about what happened on Babylon 5 and talk about Delenn being sent to talk to the Great Council about building a new series of ships. Justin.
Honestly, if they would have built some big ass ships, I'm all for it. I'm an Imperial guy. I love big, massive Star Destroyers. I
So you're
love
a size
big.
queen.
That's
Yes.
what we're calling him now, Star Destroyers.
Yes. I want to see some big ass motherfucking Minbari Star Destroyers. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Nicole.
So Lanier and Delenn were going to talk to the Great Council to ask for basically the White Star version of a big ass destroyer, right? So I don't really see a problem with sending Lanier and Delenn to do that because Delenn is on the Great Council and that's who she needs to talk to, right? So what I do feel concerned about is that they got attacked, and I'm really worried about them. Apparently, Lanier has his leg broken in 3 places, and Delenn looked okay, but I almost wonder if that was a setup, like somebody knew they were going and wanted to like intercept them and take them out. Because there's so much shady shit going on and there's so much stuff happening that like if for instance they do get those ships made, they're gonna be unstoppable, right? Because the Minbari ships are fucking insane. But like adding that White Star technology to it, I think is gonna be super crazy. So I wonder if it leaked or people knew that they were going to do that and that's why they got taken out. This could be a little conspiracy theory-ish for me. Maybe Jesse's rubbing off on me, but I don't know. I feel like there's more to the story there with that. I could be totally wrong, but that was just the thought I had about that whole situation.
Jessi.
I also think that it's very, very odd and maybe a little irresponsible to allow them to go during such a chaotic time in everybody's atmosphere, space, place. I think it's odd because you have random attacks and you have them attacking jump points and you have like, it's just chaos. And you're going to be like, hey, you go ahead and go talk to them. What year is this? It's 20 what? 22?
I
think
2162.
Something 65 or yeah, I
Right.
don't know.
We are far past the time of you not just being
2262.
22. God damn it, I was off by a century.
In 2023, 2024, we can just pick the phone up and have a face-to-face conversation with somebody. So I don't understand why she had to go there to do it. It doesn't seem responsible. It seems very, very irresponsible. It seems weird. And it seems like it was like very convenient for them to further the plot line where everybody dies. Yes, that's my prediction before anybody ruins it for me.
But Sheridan said something about that. He's like, I don't want to take any chance that this gets intercepted. So I got to have you go.
Yo, yeah, please. Because if you're dead, it's going to just be even better. Like, it's weird to me.
Okay.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, okay, we're going to risk you getting intercepted or we're going to risk you getting murdered. Cool.
But
I'd rather take the chance of you just not being alive anymore.
But right now, don't we have the United States Secretary of State being flown into Gaza and other locations in the Middle East to conduct in-person, face-to-face negotiations and talks because they don't want to have these over video call or cellular communication? Wouldn't that be the same thing? I mean, this is a location where someone could easily take out that transport plane,
right,
with the U.S. Secretary of State on it.
Does it make sense though? No, it doesn't. It still doesn't make sense in that aspect. And that is without going into my personal opinions about why it took them so fucking long to get to this point. We'll leave that one alone. But that doesn't seem very smart either. Like you're sending them into an absolute chaos zone and there's a good chance that they get killed. So if you have an important person and you don't want them to die, common sense would tell me you don't send them off to fucking die.
But Jessi, it's the risk you take.
But I digress. Well, you didn't
Especially
have to
in the
take
age of
that risk.
WikiLeaks.
You could have just picked up the phone and had a conversation. But listen, it wouldn't have been the plot that he wanted. So I get it. But it's just, it seems odd. They've done everything else via fucking video for 5 seasons. I don't know, but we're just now all of a sudden we're not doing it.
Emily.
Yeah, I felt very conflicted about Sheridan sending Delenn on that mission because it is so dangerous. And I get wanting to have her negotiate in person because there's a real possibility that the Great Council isn't going to want to work together or provide their technology to the humans,
right?
Given the history that they're still trying to deal with. But I will say when they showed the destroyed ship and she was like laying on the floor, my first thought was, if she is dead, I am done. I am walking away. You guys will never see me again. You might get some... my nice version would be gummy dicks in the mail. But I read somewhere you can send camel spiders in the mail. So if anyone wants to verify that for me, let me know.
Oh.
Yeah, no.
No, let's send one to Ryan because I'm pretty sure that they're native to that area.
Not with your new attitude of just wanting to watch the world burn. I'm not thinking it's a good idea to feed that monster.
I think she's serious.
She's a very demure, very mindful monster.
No, she's very classy.
She's not.
Yeah, that hurt to say.
Justin.
I, for one, love to receive gummy dicks in the mail. So if you want to send me that, go to gray17podcast@gmail.com. However,
find him a nice big cream-filled one.
When it's not so hot so they don't melt and just become like one massive gummy lump.
no, honestly, I had that happen with some edibles one time. And it was edible roulette, trying to see what I would get high on. But anyway, am I the only person who has a major problem with Drazi trying to collect shadow fucking tech in this episode?
Bro, the Drazi, I asked it a couple episodes ago. I'm like, is anybody still associated with them? Why haven't we kicked them out of the fucking alliance by now?
But the whole thing is, like, the Drazi found out that there's nobody on these goddamn ships. They're all drone ships. And it's all controlled by shadowed fucking drone tech. And that is one of my major fucking questions for this episode is if earlier on we established the fact that, like, it took a person to control the shadow ship. So, like, did that get retconned out to where, like, now they had drone tech to where, like, they could sit there and, like, pop these half-brain ass things in to where they can now control these ships from afar? And the fact that the Drazi now are collecting these little drone brains, that's a major fucking problem. I'm sorry.
So, Justin, I think you might have missed part of the dialogue there, because Lita said that they're more of a remote and their capability is limited. You're talking with a shadow ship. They were using a human being as a CPU, as a processor. This would have been more like a remote control.
But it's still, they can control them over hyperspace, right? And that's what they were doing when they were sending all these Centauri ships out to attack all these. When they were sending all of the Centauri ships out to attack all these ships out there, it was all through drone tech.
What if there was only one control ship in a squadron and the rest of them are all controlled by the remote? Now
we're talking like Borg tech, or like, what are we talking about?
No, okay, so think of it is if you're driving a remote controlled car, the car only does what you tell it to do. The remote controlled car is not capable of independent thought or strategy. It can't make a decision on its own, right?
No, but it's all being controlled by somebody, right?
Sure, but my point being, if they've got 5 ships in a squadron and there's one control ship and the rest of them are all by remote, there's a theory for how that could all work, and it doesn't include any sort of retcon because it's different tech. It's all right because they haven't really explained the whole thing, and whether they do or not, I'll leave alone. But I'm just coming up with a theory so that because they're using different tech than using telepath to be the CPU for the shadow ship. This is a whole different ball game, but it is shadow tech, but it's not the same as the shadow fleet.
You have the right to be wrong, and I respect that.
Okay.
Wow. Anything else, Justin?
No, I'm done.
Nicole?
I was just going to say that I fucking hate the Drazi. I've hated them from the beginning, and I still hate them, and I'll probably hate them until the show ends. So I just wanted to put that out there and spew my hate for the Drazi.
Fuck the Drazi.
Oh, no doubt the Drazi suck an epic amount, but I do really like the actor that plays the Drazi most frequently in the series.
Who, Alexander? Yeah.
No, Wayne Alexander plays one of the Drak in this episode. I was talking about, I don't think he's actually in this episode, but I'll come up with it. I'm not going to look it up right now.
Isn't it Strauss?
Strauss, yeah. I enjoy his portrayal, but overall, yes, the Drazi are terrible. But the other thing about this is I really like Robin Sachs, who plays Natak, the Narn. He's been in a couple of different parts in the series, and unfortunately, he's also gone beyond the rim. But definitely more great acting in this episode. I know Mike mentioned he really likes Damian London, who plays the Regent, I can't agree more. I think he's exceptional too. He has such an interesting way of playing the Regent that I really enjoy, that has added quite a bit to the fifth season, I think.
Emily.
I'm also wondering why the Drazi are still in the Alliance, because they don't seem to want to actually participate in any productive manner. So I've been wondering if they are actually just a part of it to get information and are working to undermine the whole thing for their own benefit, because that seems like what they're up to. And I was a bit confused on what exactly those weird pod things were that they had pulled out of the ships. If they were a receiver because they were getting signals from some other ship. Kevin was saying there's like the main ship and then sending out signals, and all the other little fighters go off and blow shit up or do whatever it is they do. And I'd really like to know how close the Drazi were to copying and or using that tech for their own purposes, because it seems like that was why their goal was to switch over their fleets to save their own so they wouldn't be in the fighters, and then send out these new shadow tech pods. But seriously, fuck the Drazi. What the hell?
And Justin.
Well, how do we know that the Drazi weren't secretly aligned with the Shadows in the first place? That's all I'm going to say.
How about we go ahead and switch over and talk about our favorite doctor and telepath and their little adventure together. Nicole.
I really enjoyed Lita and Franklin going off on an adventure together. I thought they were really funny. They had a really good dynamic when they were giving each other shit about the map, and I just thought they were really funny. I also thought the sequence when she demanded 500,000 credits from Veer and she walked away, and Veer's like, has she changed? Franklin's like, oh, she changed. It was just really funny. So I feel like that was kind of like a little bit of the comic relief of the episode. And then when they get there to their destination, of course, they get followed and the shady ass people come and try to kill them. But man, Franklin didn't even need his gun. Lita had that shit on lock. She's straight up looked that dude in the eyes, made him shoot himself in the head. And I was like, oh shit. It was just a reminder of how strong she really is, and whether or not she was right or not to do that. If somebody was coming from my life, I can promise you it would be them and not me. So she did what she had to do, and she showed that other guy, what was his name? Verna or Lord Vernon or something? The doctor they were meeting with. I forget his name, but the doctor that they were supposed to be meeting with when they were asking about the bodies. She flat out was, I thought it was kind of funny and fucked up when Franklin was like, tell me where it is or I'm going to give you back to her. like Lita is literally a walking weapon. And that was made very clear today when I watched the episode, that she means business and she's trying to do what she needs to do to get money to get her homeland and protect her telepaths. And she is not the Lita that we saw before. And this was a very, very big reminder. And to be honest, I'm kind of here for it. Like, fucking go, Lita. Like, she was shit on for so long, and now she's making demands and making deals and making shit happen and flexing how strong she is. I'm down with it.
Emily.
I thought the Lita and Dr. Franklin part was interesting, a little bit different than what we've seen. But what the fuck, Lita? Like, I get it, but wow. If you're concerned about telepaths being feared or persecuted, maybe having someone like shoot themselves in the head isn't a good move. That seemed to be crossing a very different line in a form of self-defense. I don't know. That one didn't feel right to me.
To be fair, he won't be able to tell anyone because he's dead.
That is a valid point.
Yeah, and Dr. Franklin might not rat on her for that one.
Oh, he probably doesn't want to cross her.
Fuck no.
Kevin.
I think it's awesome how Lita shook down the Centauri. It's really unfortunate that it was Veer, but they deserve to get shaken down for all their bullshit. And the fact that Lita's gotten shit on for so long and not really demanded what she's due up until probably this point. But yeah, if you're going to shake anybody down, make sure it's a Centauri, because you know they got the money. So why the hell not? And I enjoyed all of the scenes with the two of them. I think that it shows how well the two actors enjoyed working together, even though it didn't happen like a ton during the series. But it was really cool to see the plot unveiled while still having some lighter moments. I thought that was done very well. And usually that you can ascribe that to Andreas and Peter, but we got two different actors involved in the same episode doing that kind of thing on different ends. And I thought that was really cool.
Justin.
100% agree with Kevin. Lita was a boss bitch in this episode, and I absolutely loved it. She completely took control over the situation down there on the Drowsy Homeworld, and honestly, nobody can tell me that she's not somebody who is 100% powerful, 100% in control, and she will get the information that she needs, and I am 100% also here for it.
Mike?
I just want to comment here that I think it's kind of funny how much we all used to absolutely hate on Franklin, like as a character. And I think it's kind of funny because I don't think that looking back on it, I don't think any of that hate was necessarily wrong. I think the character of Franklin has evolved a lot over time and definitely had some very problematic tendencies in the early seasons. And what we found as the series has gone on is partly through the strength of Richard Biggs's acting. He's a really good character for drawing out interesting material from the other characters that he's with. And I think that's what they figured out somewhere around season 3, season 4, when they started kind of doing this new thing where after his walkabout storyline, they started taking Franklin and pairing him up with different characters and sending them off on side missions. We had Franklin and Marcus, and I'm sure we've had Franklin and Jakar and a couple episodes ago, and now Franklin and Lita. And I think it just works really, really well because, as I said, I think a lot of the actors in this show are very, very talented, but I think Richard Biggs in particular is one of the best actors on this actual show, and a lot of his improvisational talent really comes through in leaning into kind of that introspective, drawing things out of other characters, and it's a lot of fun to see him. I think the storyline itself was whatever. It played a critical part in the overall story, but I think it was really fun that they managed to put him together with Lita, which I think is an unlikely pairing, and send them off to do something and have chemistry on screen.
Kevin?
I think that's spot on, Mike. I'd also add that it's pretty clear from what I've seen that everyone really enjoyed working with Richard Biggs, and man, I wish he was still here to have a conversation with, but I've read quite a bit about him, and he's had so many nice things said about him by any of the surviving cast. And it is true that because he was apparently very easy to work with, and because they probably realized at some point that they had not written the character quite as well as they might have wished they had, they started putting him into some different situations. I think that was a very good choice, because otherwise you were wasting Richard Biggs' talent and leaving aside something that would help you grow the storyline. So that's been a very fun part of the last couple of seasons.
Right. Anything else anyone wants to talk about with this episode, since it was such a minor, inconsequential episode?
I do have one. Sometime after Sheridan gives Dylan the gift, all I wrote is "what the fuck." So if anyone knows what I was referring to, that'd be great.
Kevin, you were going to say something hopefully more poignant and serious.
I was wondering if we should talk about Delenn and Lanier, but maybe we did cover that. There really isn't anything for Lockley to cover. Do we cover enough the Delenn and Lanier stuff?
Does anyone have anything they want to dive into with Delenn and Lanier on a White Star?
No, I mean, I think we talked about it when I was talking
otherwise
about
I think
why the hell would you send her off, during blah, blah, blah.
Okay. And we did have Lockley back, as you mentioned, with this episode, her and Corwin and CNC dealing with a attempted takeout of the jump gates for B5. That was a scene. Some of us have been really wanting to see Lockley back. So there was that. Nicole?
Unrelated, her hair looked so beautiful in that opening scene when she was doing her captain's log, but she handled shit, man. Like when that ship was coming in to blow the jump gate, and she figured out that that's like what they were doing, and she's got B5 on lock. I gotta say, she, as a leader, she sprung into quick action. She made moves, she made things happen, and everyone was even saying, like Sheridan was saying, oh, Lockley's got B5 on lockdown, we're good. So I was really impressed with being able to not only see her, but also see her work so quickly and so efficiently and like just handle her biz. I thought that was pretty badass.
So let's bring up Sheridan a little bit, because there was that scene in here too where Sheridan and Lockley are meeting with the Drazi and the Narn to try to talk about figuring out what strategy the Centauri are using and trying to figure out what the purpose of this war even is. And Sheridan pretty much tells them, you're not going to go attack the homeworld and civilian targets. And they kind of go do it anyway.
I was going to say, oh, they don't kind of do it.
They basically do it.
And didn't they say that as they were having that meeting, they were already on their way there?
They very well might have been, I think is what he said. Yeah.
And I had questions like, if you're showing up to take out Centari Prime and you realize there's no fleet protecting it and there's no defenses, would you start asking yourself questions about what the hell is happening?
I would hope so.
Like, is something being set up? What is going on? Because this doesn't feel right. Like, maybe just, I don't know, pause for like 5 seconds, ask a question.
Well, I thought about that too. I'm like, if I was coming in there to attack them and there's no defense, there's no ships, there's nothing, I would think it was a trap. So they just went in guns blazing. They didn't even stop. So,
well, but listen to them when they were having their little meeting.
I know.
Flat out said, we want our revenge.
We want death.
They're not thinking.
They don't care.
Want revenge.
And the Drazi know that the Centauri have been using shadow tech. So I feel like coming into that situation, you know they have shadow tech, at least some of what they have. You don't know if they have more. And you're coming in and it looks like, oh, this is just free game. We can take easy shots. I feel like that would just be like, I don't know, warning signals, like something's not right. Do they actually have something else going on that we are unaware of because we don't know the full extent of what they might still have kept from the shadows? Maybe, just maybe not.
Plus, until they show up, they don't know it's unguarded, and the Centauri have some of the best tech of any of the member worlds. It just doesn't make sense that the Drazi and what little they have of the Narn fleet could be able to go to their homeworld and really fuck shit up. It just, I don't know how that holds up.
Well, I think there could be an issue of timing here too, because we don't know the exact sequence. Is if the Regent sent the forces away from Centari Prime, it's possible the Drazi and the Narn saw that opening.
Okay.
And decided to say, we've got a chance here.
Yeah, it does raise some questions about the overall dynamic of this kind of, I don't know, large-scale space warfare, because it very much comes off as though we know the bigger ships can make their own jump points. And so it's like, does that just mean that they can go anywhere they want to and just show up at any time and do whatever they want as long as no one's there to shoot back? Because much is made of the jump gate network, but it doesn't seem like the jump gate network is strictly necessary all the time.
Well, remember that the jump gates are just part of it. They also have a beacon system that I think are run off of the jump gates. So if they lose the jump gates, then the ships that do have their own hyperspace windows, they still have a very bad time navigating in hyperspace.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's just an interesting dynamic. There's nothing that keeps enemy ships from just showing up on your doorstep.
Yeah.
Jump gate or not. And the biggest question, if anything, is the Centauri in all of their, I want to back up, I guess, and say, you start to wonder about what's going on with the minister and whether he is just that absolutely stupid and arrogant that he follows the regent without question and follows his orders and believes that the Centauri are untouchable because they're just that great. Or is he compromised and is he in on it? Because the real question to me, the real bugaboo here, even more so than why didn't the Drazi question the defenseless planet, is how on earth did the Centauri, in the middle of a war with everybody, who followed the order to turn the defense grid off without there being a lot more questions raised on Centauri? The fact that they then threw Londo in jail for questioning the regent. And obviously, we're not going to get answers to any of this, really, but I guess I have a much bigger problem with that than some of the other questions that y'all are bringing up.
All right, so I think if that wraps up our discussion, we will go ahead and get our newbies questions and predictions and then throw them out of here so that we can go give some answers or just flat out make fun of them, whichever the case may be. So let's start with Justin.
All right, I got some questions. Buckle up, Buttercup. So what were the little things that Sheridan bought Delenn? And why didn't you want to wear them? Were they earrings? Were they nipple tassels? We may never know. Will Lennier blame Sheridan for what happened to the White Star and putting Dylan in danger? Is this how Londo finally gets his keeper? The next question is this why you always see the future Centauri Prime in flames? Did it really burn that long into the future? And then does Sheridan blame the Drazi for the war, or do we know, or do they eventually find out that it was actually the Drakh? And then my one prediction is Jakar and Delenn will survive, because when all the ships are coming down on Jakar, I was kind of wondering if Jakar would actually survive this all. But will Jakar and Delenn survive? And then will anyone else actually make it? Who knows? Maybe future times will tell. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Nicole.
I guess really, I asked a lot of questions earlier. I broke the rules, sorry, but did Londo get his keeper? Is the region actually going to die, or is he just going to get bombed and die like that, essentially? And then are a lot of the same questions. Are Lennier and Delenn going to make it? Do Lita and Franklin get back to Babylon 5 safely? Because I know they were kind of under attack too. And then do they find out who's really behind it? And what do they do about it? I guess that would be something we'll probably figure out next episode. And then prediction wise, I have no fucking idea. I really don't know. Like, there was so much that happened. I have no idea where it's going to go.
Emily.
Hey, so do Delenn and Lennier actually make it to Minbar? Okay, when do we figure out if Lennier actually betrays the Rangers? And what did Sheridan buy Delenn? Do we think he's a vanilla or a sub?
And Jessi.
I mean, everybody has asked the questions that I had. At this point, I'm going to predict they all die. And it's not that I want to see them all die, but we have throughout every season, we've been like, oh, we better not. We've only lost one major character, correct?
Talia?
Talia, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, like,
the other one is Marcus.
Yeah, Mark, you're right. But like,
don't forget Ivanova.
She didn't die though, but of the major characters, we haven't lost anybody. So I don't know. Like, I don't want to say that Delenn dies, but I think Lennier for sure dies. Like, I think he's on his way out. And then I don't know, Jakar maybe because he's in a cell. Maybe Londo. It's nuts because at this point any of them could die. So I don't know who it is, but I'm going to predict somebody's going to go.
Okay. I think that wraps up all of that fun stuff. So that concludes our discussion of movements of Fire and Shadow. We'll be back next week to discuss the fall of Centauri Prime, where we hear again our first impressions from our newbies and see where they think the rest of this series is going, because we are getting pretty close to the end. We actually have 5 episodes left until we have the finale of Babylon 5 with Sleeping in the Light. So it'll be interesting to see what our newbies think as we go through these final few episodes. Now we're going to get ready to throw our newbies out. But before we do that, Jessi, do you have any conspiracy theories for us tonight?
Actually, I do. Oh, there it is.
Sloth.
Oh, yes. Giant sloths still exist. You're all welcome.
Again, they're called DMV employees.
That was in
I will have more next week. I kind of slacked off this week. My bad.
Damn you, Jessi. We so look forward to our conspiracy theories.
I know. It's fine. I'll have 12 new ones next week.
So I've been Blake, and with me has been
Nicole,
Kevin,
fucking Justin,
Jessi,
Mike,
and Emily.
And make sure to like, follow, and subscribe on YouTube or your podcast app of choice. And please leave us a 5-star review, preferably on Apple, to counteract our favorite little fucking jackass, because we sure do appreciate those 5-star reviews. And again, to those fans who have been exceptionally patient with us and understanding as we have dealt with several challenges over the last couple of weeks, adapting to some changes and curveballs thrown at us. We love you and we appreciate you. Thank you for all of the support.
If it's about my wearing those little... I appreciate the gift. And I didn't say I wouldn't wear them. I just said that, for me, from a Minbari perspective, I thought it looked silly.
No. It doesn't have anything to do with that.
Business, then.
Thank you for listening to Grey 17, a Babylon 5 podcast. You can find all the places to listen to and watch this podcast at anchor.fm/Grey17podcast or youtube.com at Grey17podcast. We want to hear from you, so join the conversation at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, or Patreon. Be sure to subscribe and leave a review where you are listening to or watching this podcast. Grey 17 is not affiliated with, and the podcast has not been prepared, approved, or licensed by Warner Brothers or any other owners of the Babylon 5 copyright. All clips included in this podcast are the intellectual property of the respective copyright holders. They are included here for purpose of review, and no infringement is intended. The opening and closing themes are available from Falling Matter on YouTube.
And what's out there?
The rim,
And beyond that?
the truth.
Welcome back to Beyond the Rim. We have got rid of our newbies, thank fucking God. And now we're going to go through all of their questions and predictions, or at least all of the ones we decided to leave in the show. So let's get started with questions. And was the flash of light and Londo getting examined a dream, or was it real?
Oh, it was real.
Pretty sure it was real.
Very, very real on that one.
And yes, they were getting Londo ready to have a keeper, but he does not have it yet.
Yeah, he doesn't have it yet, but they were making sure he was going to be able to take it. I kind of look at that as when they said he'll do, was they were doing an examination to make sure he could handle having the keeper.
Yeah, which with how much he has partied and whatnot, I'm surprised he is, but sure.
Were the Drazi secretly aligned with the Shadows?
I don't think so.
No, they just wanted shit because they're the shit people of the galaxy.
It was an interesting theory, though. I won't poo-poo the theory, but
no, it's an interesting theory, but no, they're just the garbage of the galaxy. So
yeah, and I guess you brought up an interesting point as we were talking between segments here about whether somebody was actually confused about Drazi and Drak, and I guess just to answer the question fully, if they met Drak, were the Drak secretly aligned with the Shadows? And the answer is absolutely yes.
Which
so that wasn't even
answered in the show. Yeah. We were just also discussing in between segments here how the newbies have forgotten key episodes of the series. We've met the Drak. We've seen the fate of Jakar and Londo. We know that Delenn makes it into extreme old age, or at least, old age for a member of the Minbari race. There's certain aspects of the series that they have forgotten, but I'm sure they'll probably rewatch the series and get to the point where they understand more about it when they do a rewatch, which is one of the most fun things about this series is to do rewatches.
So I don't know where they're going with this next question. Does Sheridan blame the Drazi for the war?
Well, I mean, is Sheridan going to blame the Drazi for the attacking Centari Prime and probably escalating the war is how I'm reading that question. And well, yeah, they and the Narns have most of the culpability there for escalating things, certainly, especially when they were told flat out, don't do it.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I wouldn't blame them for starting it, but definitely escalating it.
Is the Regent actually going to die? Yes. Yes, he most certainly is, and Londo is going to be Emperor very, very soon.
Will Lanier blame Sheridan for what happens to the White Star and putting Delenn in danger? No, but he's gonna blame Sheridan for some other shit. Mostly he's screwing the girl that he wanted.
And just generally speaking, Lanier blames Sheridan for everything, and it's going to come to a head at the end of the series, and none of us like it.
So you're saying Lanier is Emily?
I'm not going there. Will Delenn and Lanier survive, and do they make it to Minbar?
Yes.
Don't remember if they make it to Minbar, but yes, they survive.
Well, we can just infer that yes, they do, because the ship gets built, because we'll see that in a call to arms. It becomes the Excalibur and the Discovery.
Correct.
And the Victory.
Will Delenn be alive at the end of the show? Yes. Watch this series or the season 4 finale if you have questions about that.
Yeah, I'm really tempted in our group chat just to post out there later tonight. Folks, half your questions and predictions if you just go fucking watch the season 4 finale again.
Maybe don't do that. Will we find out how Lanier betrays the Rangers?
In about 4 episodes.
And we really don't like it.
So it's going to be about 4 episodes.
Yeah. Do Lita and Franklin make it back to B5 safely? Yes, they do.
Yep.
And I want to highlight something here. So, unfortunately, this is the last time that we see Pat Tallman and Richard Biggs on screen together in their own scene. And Pat Tallman was quite upset about that. She was almost more sad about that than the series ending. She's like, there were some other moments that I was sad, but not being able to work with Richard Biggs again on the series was one of the saddest moments on the set at the end of the series for her. And of course, the fact that he passed made that ultimately much worse. But I didn't realize how much they were buds, but of course, they got to do all that Mars stuff together. So in season 4 as well. So I'm sure that was part of that connection. But as I alluded to in the main segment, they really enjoyed working with John Flynn, and that he was known for being very actor friendly. So they all really enjoyed working with him too. There's one final question. Do they find out who is behind this, and what do they do about it? I'm guessing that's the Drock conspiracy, and it's going to take quite a long time before that comes to fruition.
Yeah, because they never find out about it in the series proper. It all happens off screen.
And Londo's going to have his keeper for another 17 years.
Mm-hmm.
So that means the Drock are involved for at least that long. So for predictions, Delenn and G'Kar will survive, but will everyone else?
Again, we've seen this. Yeah, Delenn will. G'Kar does for a while, but we've seen G'Kar's death. Him and Londo die at each other's hand.
Right.
I mean, we've known this since what? War Without End?
Yeah. I mean, as far as people making it out of the series, Sheridan's going to pass on, and Londo and G'Kar are going to pass on within the next 20 years, and I'm trying to think of anyone else that passes.
Let's face it, yes, everyone will die eventually, but no one's going to get killed off in dramatic fashion.
No.
It's almost interesting to me because a lot of we definitely have some sci-fi noobs here who I guess aren't real accustomed to the whole time travel kind of thing in a show. But yeah, it definitely seems like everybody kind of mistrusts the fact that what we have seen previously really is the future, or they've flatly forgotten about it. That's definitely possible as well. But
I think this gets to JMS's writing. I mean, he's like the magician that puts everything in plain sight.
Yeah,
everything's out there. All the pieces are at play here.
Well, and it is actually really interesting to think about the fact that so much of the show in the earlier seasons is very, very much time travel oriented. Like, I mean, the whole Babylon 5, Babylon 4 story arc with the One, all of it, it's all very rooted in a time travel sci-fi kind of setup. But then you do leave all of that behind at some point. And I wonder if some of where we're at now is the guys have just straight up forgotten about how involved in traveling through time we ever were.
Yeah. So I think that pretty well wraps up the predictions there. Does
Kevin, Mike, anything else either you want to discuss with this week's episode? Please say no.
I think we've covered it.
I think we've pretty well hit this one on the head.
So this has been our Beyond the Rim discussion of Movements of Fire and Shadow. We will be back next week with the fall of Centari Prime as we continue our journey through Season 5 of Babylon 5 and heading into the home stretch towards the series finale. I have been Blake, and with me has been
Kevin
and Mike.
And we will see y'all later.